Welcome to Legal Nurse Podcast. This is your spot to get inspiration, tips, stories, and guidance to help you in your legal nurse consulting practice. I'm Pat Iyer, the host of Legal Nurse Podcast since 2016. We are among the top 5% of all podcasts in the world in terms of longevity and sharing information consistently week after week with legal nurse consultants. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to this program on using video for your marketing efforts as a legal nurse consultant. Barbara Levin is our moderator today. We collaborate in creating conferences and courses and coaching programs. She is a skilled expert witness in the areas of orthopedic nursing and medical surgical nursing. And she works practically every weekend and any other day that Massachusetts General can convince her to come into work. She works as a clinical scholar on a unit that has a combination of orthopedic and med-surg patients. Barbara was recently recognized by the Orthopedic Nurses Association as a fellow, one of only 5 nurses in the country who was honored this year with that designation. And that was for her contributions to the field of orthopedic nursing.
Thank you so much, Pat. And many of you know Pat Iyer, but for those of you who do not, she is a very well recognized and acknowledged leader within the legal nurse consulting community. And she's the author of 70 books and is the author of an upcoming book and workbook called AI-Powered Video for LNCs. So let's jump into the topic. Pat, I hear from many legal nurse consultants that they are nervous about creating videos. Can you share with our audience what is behind that fear?
Many people who are getting used to the idea of creating videos are fearful of stumbling, of not remembering what they want to say, stumbling over their words, drawing a blank, sounding wooden without appropriate expression in their voice, and fear of being exposed. When you create a video, you are presenting yourself to the world, whether that world is legal nurse consultants or more logically attorneys who you would like to have hire you to work on cases. If you have any of these fears, would you put yes in the chat? And the chat you'll locate at the bottom of your screen. It will be listed as chat with a couple little bubbles. And I'm curious about whether you have any of those fears. Oh, and I'm seeing yeses. I'm seeing Janice has yes with about 5 extra S's afterwards. I went through a phase like this when I first started doing video, and that was about 12 years ago. I spent a good year accumulating equipment, lights, microphones, thinking about cameras. It was so much more complicated to do video then. Now I can go out in my backyard and use my phone and I can get a video recorded in 5 minutes. But it was much more cumbersome in the past and now considerably easier. And there are techniques that you can use to overcome those fears. And some of those we'll be talking about today.
That's terrific. And what would you say are the benefits of video marketing? Because we know that's why our audience is here today to learn all about this.
You definitely stand out from your competition. Most legal nurse consultants are not doing videos. I would say, if I had to quantify it, probably 95% of LNCs are not doing videos. And that doesn't mean because it's too difficult or too complicated. Part of it is not knowing how to do it, and part of it is addressing the fear that we've just talked about, and you've responded to my question in the chat. You attract attorneys faster. There is a large segment of attorneys who want to meet or at least see the people who they would be working with, who are the ones that they would hire to work as expert witnesses or behind the scenes consultants. When we had a lot of in-person events, which have come back to an extent, attorneys could easily meet LNCs and experts. Now it's tougher. Having a video that they can watch of you talking gives them a sense of who you are. Video is engaging. You cannot leave your house today on a typical day without encountering video somewhere, whether that's in a gas station, a bus station, a plane, a doctor's office, a store. You'll find video monitors playing TV shows, old movies. They're all over. And it also is a way for you to share stories. There's increasing emphasis in the marketing world about using stories to establish your credibility, to talk about cases that you have been involved in, not active cases, but ones that you've completed, or cases that you have read about. You might not have been involved in them at all. And you've read that story about that case, and you've got a take on it that you can share with an attorney.
How does the inclusion of videos in emails affect open rates? And if you could explain that a little bit further.
Sure. Videos in emails increase open rates, meaning when you send out an email to a group of people, you're looking at how many people receive it. In some cases, not everybody on your list will receive the email because they've moved or they've changed email addresses. So the open rate is how many people actually open that email rather than deleting it without reading it. That's an important statistic because if you want to get the attention of an attorney, you first have to get them to open your email. When you put the word video in the title of the email, that increases the open rate by about 19%. The typical email open rate varies a great deal across the board. If you get about 30% of the people opening your email, that's considered to be great. And when I'm talking about email, I'm not discussing, hey, Tom, I know that you want to schedule my deposition. Here are some dates. I'm not talking about that kind of an email. I'm talking about if you have a list of attorneys you've worked with and you're periodically sending them emails, giving them helpful information, reminding them that you exist. You're looking at how many of those people open the email. The other statistic is click-through rates, which means once they open your email, do they actually click on a link or click on a button or click on a video to watch it? A video will increase your click-through rate by about 65%, which is huge because a lot more people will open your email than will click on a link. Videos are shared more than text messages, about 200% more. That means that if you send an email with a video to an attorney in a law firm, that attorney is 200% more likely to say, hey, John, I just got this email from this legal nurse consultant, and she put a video in her email. I think you might find it interesting. And that attorney will forward that email. You can also send very tailored videos. You can use a program called Loom, L-O-O-M, not to be confused with Zoom. Loom is a email video program where you can, either for a free or the paid program, send a specific email to a specific person with a specific video in it. Hi, Susan. It was great meeting you at the Trial Lawyers Conference last week. We talked about the Johnson case with the man who fell out of bed in the nursing home. I know you wanted to have me get involved in that case. I'd love to set up a time to schedule a meeting with you. And that type of message specifically directed to a particular person is compelling, very compelling. The click-through, the open rates videos increased by 19% to address the question Jessica put in. Videos increased the open rate by 19% and the click-through rate by 65%. And then finally, another benefit of including videos and emails is the opportunity for attorneys to see you, to see your face, to see your mannerisms, hear your voice, so that when they do have an opportunity to meet you in person or on subsequent Zoom calls, they go, oh, yes, I remember Jessica's video that she sent in that email. I know who she is. It builds up that feeling that they know you and they like you.
That is such great information. How do videos increase, know, like, trust, remember those types of situations? First, let's talk about what this means, the know, like,
Mhm.
trust, and remember.
This is a marketing expression that I'll bet some of you have heard. If you have heard know, like, trust, would you put a letter A in the chat? And that way I can differentiate your letters A versus the yeses that you put in earlier. Okay, I'm seeing several people who have heard this expression. The know is that attorneys become aware of you, your brand, your presence. They get to know who you are. Like should follow logically when we have that emotional connection that we've made with an attorney. We have, as nurses, a tremendous advantage when it comes to establishing the like factor. We have to walk into a patient's room. Every one of us who's ever taken care of a patient, which should be everybody on this call, we have to walk in and establish rapport. When Barbara goes in on Saturday morning and gets her assignment, she has to go around, make rounds, talk to each patient, immediately have them understand that she's there, she understands their needs, and she's ready to take care of them. The public trusts us as a profession over and over and over again. That nursing comes up at the top of the list of professions that people trust. People have to trust us with their information, with their vulnerability, with their bodies. In all ways, they are vulnerable to us. So when we show that we are trustworthy to attorneys, they're much more likely to give us cases. They have to trust that we know what we're doing, that we understand their needs and their world, that we will provide consistent quality work product for them, that we will be honest with them, that we will practice with integrity. All of that goes into trust. And then the remember piece is what makes you memorable. You are competing with other legal nurse consultants in your town, in your state, in the country for the attention of attorneys. By now, with the profession being since 1986 is when the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants was started. I joined in 1987. At this point in our history, most attorneys who handle medical cases have heard of legal nurse consultants. They might call them nurse paralegals. They might call them medical legal consultants. Most have heard of us. It's not a question at this point that they don't know who we are, but how do we differentiate ourselves and stand out? That's another piece. How you become memorable is when you have videos, when you stand out because you've got a YouTube channel, you're posting videos on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Instagram. You are sharing content you are separating yourself from all the other legal nurse consultants who are marketing to attorneys. And that gives you a return on investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of nerve power. Not so much the cost of the equipment that holds people back. I had a $1,200 video camera that I just threw away because I hadn't used it in 5 years. I'm using the more powerful camera that's on my phone now. It's far more powerful than the camera in my Sony video recorder that I used to use. People who are investing in videos are getting, according to the statistics, a 92% return on investment, positive returns from sharing videos that highlight their knowledge and their brand.
That's astonishing. Can you explain, Pat, why it's so important to identify the attorneys that you want to reach?
That's everything in developing your content. What are the needs of the people that you want to reach? And I'm curious if we could put in the chat, who are the kinds of attorneys that you are looking to be able to reach? Are you looking specifically for personal injury attorneys, for example, or medical malpractice attorneys, or attorneys who handle nursing home cases, or attorneys who are defending criminal cases? Who are the people that you are trying to reach? And I see in the chat, we've got medical malpractice, personal injury, workers' comp, product liability. Michelle says expert witness. And that's most likely a medical malpractice attorney. Jessica says nursing home, personal injury, med mal. When you know your area of expertise, it helps you to narrow that down. So think of this in terms of the universe of attorneys who handle personal injury and are dealing with medical cases is very large. A subset of that are attorneys who handle medical malpractice cases. Let me ask you, why do you think personal injury attorneys don't always handle medical malpractice cases? Why do they focus on car crashes, slips and falls, burns, as opposed to handling medical malpractice cases as well? Jessica says the faster turnover. Yeah, personal injury cases can be resolved much more rapidly. Natasha says the expense. Yes. Debbie says they're too complicated. Medical malpractice cases require a degree of specialization and an ability to be able to invest in expensive expert witnesses, expensive depositions, pleadings, briefs. Personal injury cases are easier to resolve and less costly, Jane says. Yes, they can be very straightforward. You hit me. In fact, I was just talking to one of my mastermind people this morning. Her son was in a car crash in New York State yesterday. Truck in front of him slowed down. He slowed down. The car behind him, driver not paying attention, slams into the back of his car. He hits the truck. He's now sandwiched between these two trucks. It's very straightforward liability. Yes, he hit the truck in front of him, but he hit the truck because he was pushed into the truck. And then he couldn't get out of the truck. You'll be happy to know, Barbara, that he just ended up with some pain in his wrist, went to the ER, they checked him out. He was not injured, even though his car turned into an accordion, but he was not injured. Very straightforward case to resolve for a personal injury, compared to if he went to the hospital with a cervical fracture and they failed to diagnose the fracture and they took off the immobilizing devices and remove the cervical collar, and then he ends up paralyzed, that becomes a medical malpractice case that could take 3 to 5 to 7 years to resolve. And Sirocco says the return on investment is high for a potential return on investment is high in a medical malpractice case if you have provided yourself with the help of a legal nurse consultant to help screen those cases to make sure that you've taken on a great case. As you think about the people, the attorneys who are the ones most likely to hire you or are hiring you right now, it's probably a mix of personal injury and medical malpractice as the two great areas where there are a lot of attorneys working with legal nurse consultants. When you know who you want to reach, you then know what topics you want to focus on for videos. What's going to resonate with the person you want to reach? I know that somebody put in the chat earlier, nursing home cases. The issues in nursing home cases have an overlap with medical malpractice. However, there are regulations and chart forms that are very specific to nursing homes that attorneys handling those cases need to know about. They need to know what are the regulations, where are they found, how do those regulations apply to this case. That would drive the content for you if you wanted to reach attorneys handling nursing home cases. Christy said, veteran disabilities, the injuries that veterans can be exposed to on the battlefield are very different than some of the ones that you can experience if you're in a civilian capacity. And how do those injuries cause damage, and what are the long-lasting effects of those? I'm suggesting that as you think about the topics that you want to focus on for your videos, think about what's going to be of interest to attorneys. There are some that can be broad, like interpreting medical records, understanding nurses' notes, looking for missing information in a medical record, picking up clues that a medical record has been tampered with. That can be applicable to a wide variety of cases. And then there are some, I know we've got some OB nurses here today, Kate is one of them, where being able to interpret what the nurses in labor and delivery are writing about and how they're describing the variability on the fetal monitoring strips, that's specific to a particular type of case. By doing a video on that topic, Kate would be attracting the attention of attorneys who are handling OB cases. That's how you consider your topics, is how broad is it? And then how narrow do you need to get in order to specifically attract the kind of attorney you're looking for? In my friend's case with her son's injury yesterday in New York, if he'd had a back injury, a neck injury, and she's not a legal nurse consultant, if she were, and if she wanted to do a video about her son's injury, which she may not want to, or maybe you hearing that story might want to do one, you could talk about the kinds of abnormalities that would show up on diagnostic testing for somebody who's had a back injury. What is the meaning of a burst fracture? Now, this is Barbara's world. She sees these kinds of injuries. What does a spondylolisthesis mean? What are the degenerative changes that show up in your back as you age? And how do they appear on diagnostic tests? What's the difference between an acute injury and a chronic injury? All those things are ones that personal injury attorneys have to understand so that they make the appropriate legal strategies. And Barbara, I'm stopping to take a breath after having
Okay.
gone through all that.
All righty. Because I know you wanted to share with everybody about word of mouth and how utilizing um, this technique helps to target your audience. And as you mentioned before, these memorable videos are shared amongst all these attorneys. I mean, that return rate to know that they're shared with so many is eye-opening. I think it's going to make a difference for so many people that are joining us today. I think they will put their best foot forward and develop their own content as well.
It's definitely a shareable medium. And for the attorney to share, it means they've gotten some value from it. Let me be very clear. Attorneys are looking for content that helps them solve problems or help them understand something. In a short video, you're not solving all of their problems. You're not even tackling a big topic. You might be talking about a specific thing, like what's the difference between a soft cervical collar and a hard cervical collar? Why is one used? Why is one preferable? Why would it be applied and who's responsible for removing it? You could probably cover that in a couple of minutes, as opposed to, hi, my name is Pat Iyer and I'm a legal nurse consultant and you need to hire me. And here's why. That's a sales video, not nearly as compelling as something that they will remember about the different kinds of collars.
Before we continue, let's talk about how you are going to be teaching AI in our upcoming November 13, 14, 15 LNC Success Conference.
One of the sessions in our 3-day event is going to cover the use of AI. As Barbara mentioned, I am finishing a book on using AI to create videos for legal nurse consultants. This is a tool we're all talking about today in terms of how AI is impacting our industry. And I will share with you in that session at the conference, which is November 13, 14, and 15, some of the strategies that you can use in your LNC business, whether that's using AI for your marketing materials, for sales letters, for emails, for blogs, social media posts, and video. We're going to be covering those techniques and the way that you can get the power that AI is offering us. You'll get practical strategies and tips, and we've built into this conference a number of workshops, implementation workshops. I know that it's tempting to sit in your seat when you go to an in-person conference and absorb and absorb and absorb. You've probably had the same experience that I have, where you come out and your head is full. You feel like you just can't absorb anything else. When you attend an online conference and you participate in workshops, you have the opportunity to directly and immediately apply what you're learning. And we've built those workshops into this conference, including one on screening a case for merit, another on writing questions for depositions, which sometimes happens. I remember the first time I got a phone call from an attorney. I was an expert witness on the case. I had not looked at the case for over a year, and he called me up at 3:00 and he said, I'm taking the deposition of the defendant nurse tomorrow at 9. What questions would you like me to ask her? I thought, holy cow, I have not looked at this case in a year, and I'm in the middle of something, and I am certainly not going to say to him, oh, I'm sorry, I'm too busy to help you. So I had to stop what I was doing and figure out, well, how do I write questions for a deposition? We want you to feel comfortable when you get that kind of request. We also have a workshop on. Hey, I'm Pat Iyer, and this is Barbara Levin, and we are the co-moderators of our 12th LNC Success online conference taking place November 13, 14, and 15. In a rare opportunity to be together in the same room instead of in the same Zoom room, Barbara and I will share a couple of reasons why this conference is different than other LNC conferences. Barbara, what's one of the key things that you see as different about the LNC Success Conference?
Well, first and foremost, this is a virtual conference. So you'll be able to watch us from the comforts of your home or your office, or perhaps you're on vacation during that time. You can take us with you and join us. One of the biggest benefits that we hear from so many who attend our conferences is the opportunity to go into the breakout sessions and work on particular things together, whether it's identifying issues with a medical malpractice case, perhaps working on a personal injury case, working on report writing. There are so many things and so many opportunities that we offer to you. This is where we are certainly in our own LNC land, let's say, and offering you something that's so different. Pat, I know that you have additional ones to share.
Yes, I do want to touch on how much you save when you attend an online conference. Earlier this month, I went to Scottsdale for the National Speakers Association conference, and when I totaled it up between the limo, the hotel, the conference fees, the food, I spent about $5,000 for approximately 6 days of education. Our conference is a tenth of that price. You're paying for the opportunity to get the education without all of the additional expenses. We designed this conference coming up November 13, 14, and 15 with more opportunities for interaction and hands-on workshops. Our feedback from prior conferences shows that people love the opportunity to apply what they've learned and also to meet LNCs from around the country. This is a little bit of a lonely profession at times. We think a certain way, we look at the world a certain way, and not everybody gets us. When you come to our conference, you are surrounded by people who get it, who understand why you get fascinated with being able to find that missing piece of the puzzle. Is there anything else, Barbara, that you'd like to add?
Yes, you will also hear from a diverse group of speakers. There's a physician, there are attorneys, there are advanced legal nurses, and others that are very well known in the industry and love to share their knowledge and wisdom forward for you to learn. But this will be your opportunity to ask those burning questions from the speakers and get direct feedback from them. You will also have an opportunity to earn CEUs. Some people are counting their CEUs at the time of renewal of their licensure. You'll have that opportunity to gain CEUs.
Be sure to go to the link right below this video, which is lnc.tips/NOV25. That link again is lnc.tips/NOV25. That'll give you an opportunity to sign up now and get those dates locked into your calendar and be able to look forward to an educational treat for you, an investment in your learning, in your continuing education with content specific to your needs as a legal nurse consultant. Join us. We look forward to having you. Summarizing deposition transcripts, another skill that I learned by doing without any instruction. We encourage you to go to the link that I will put in the chat, which is lnc.tips November, which is abbreviated NOV 25, And you'll have an opportunity, if you're not already signed up for the conference, please look at those dates and get your seat, reserve your ticket, and do that now. If you're already signed up for the conference, put in the chat, I'm coming. Michelle says, I'm coming. Kate says, I'm coming. Yes. Smiley faces. Alicia says, I'm coming. I know that Lydia is coming as well. Jane's coming. Jessica is working on it. All right. Kelly says, I'm coming. Mary Beth is coming, and Mary Beth is going to be one of our panelists talking about how she has built up some of the cases in her business through using LinkedIn. And Natasha is coming. All right, perfect.
Wonderful.
And a few more people planning to register. Christy's coming. Tanya's trying to work on it. All right.
That's great. Pat, how can I use AI to research my ideal client?
One of the challenges is realizing how attorneys think. What are the things that drive them? We may think that we understand that. I am continually reminded whenever I use AI, especially ChatGPT, that it can come up with things that I hadn't considered. Summarizing your ideal client, for example, you can ask ChatGPT to give you an analysis of what are some of the frustrations and fears that attorneys have who are in your target market. And to be clear, you can ask about fears and frustrations, and it can give you a broad answer. But if you say, what are some of the fears and frustrations related to personal injury attorneys handling medical cases, that will give you a different answer. AI wants the context in order to give you the best answer. You can ask about some of the hopes and dreams that your ideal client has. And that will give you a better understanding about some of the motivations and the factors that drive them. Those answers are going to be different for plaintiff attorneys versus defense attorneys. I learned early on as one of the major legal nurse consultants in my state, we got a lot of requests for nursing experts. And I learned early on that the attorneys needed to be sure that they were keeping the insurance company happy, the defense attorneys specifically, that they needed to establish through their selection of experts and their management of the process that they were attentive to the needs of the insurance carrier, that they were keeping the carrier happy, that in some cases the carrier did not accept the first expert who found a case to be without the ability to be defended. In other words, it was defenseless. Sometimes they came back to my company 2 times and 3 times for more experts because the carrier wanted to have 3 nursing experts who looked at a case and said this case can't be defended before they were willing to pay. A plaintiff attorney usually doesn't do that, in my experience. It was much more common that the defense would go through a number of experts to see if they could find anybody who was willing to defend a case. And some of the cases were so clearly not defensible that finally the carrier would say, okay, we're going to pay. You can look at ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Copilot. I recommend that you find a tool and get very comfortable with that, whether it's one of those or another one. Learn how to use it. Become familiar with it. Look at the settings. Make sure that you know how to keep your information private in that tool. You can go into ChatGPT, for example, into the settings and the data controls, and you can turn off the feature that says train the model for everyone. That keeps your information private within ChatGPT. That's in where your initials appear in the lower left-hand corner on ChatGPT. Settings, data controls, turn off the model so that you're not training the world. And then whatever you're putting into ChatGPT related to your own work materials and questions is shielded from other people. And then always, and this keeps coming up over and over again, infuse some common sense and practicality when you look at AI answers. If it's telling you something that it has, you look at it and say, no, that can't be right. Chances are it's not right. It is not infallible. It does hallucinate. It makes up things. I did a search for a book that I'm also finishing up on writing short books for legal nurse consultants. I said, please give me a list of books that were written by nurses about legal issues for attorneys. Books written by nurses for attorneys about legal issues. It gave me credit for a book that I have no memory of ever having written. It said, by the way, Barbara, that Marianne Shea was the author of a book on legal issues. Well, Barbara and Marianne and I together did a book with the three of us, but it gave Marianne credit for one book. It gave me credit for a different book. None of it was true. So always infuse some common sense. And if you're not happy with the answer that you're getting from AI, tell it, no, you're not paying attention to me. That's not what I asked you. Please answer my question. And it will say, oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Levin. I didn't understand what you asked. Of course, you're right. Let me answer that again.
That's such important advice. Thank you. How else can I use AI in my video marketing?
You can use it to create scripts. Thinking of again, you're clear on who you want to reach, the content that you want to cover. You can create some scripts from your topic that you have identified. If you've written social media posts, you can repurpose those and turn those into scripts for a video. Blogs become excellent sources of information for video scripts. By putting that into ChatGPT or a similar program, you can say, give me a video script based on this information. And it will happily do it faster than you can even breathe. You can also say, give me some keywords that I should consider for creating videos for attorneys. What are the things that people are searching for? What are attorneys searching for? And then you can also use ChatGPT and similar programs to create some images. There are all the time, and literally my mailbox is flooded every day with offers from graphics companies that are using AI by typing out a sentence to create a video, by typing out a sentence to create an image. This is technology that is well understood at this point. AI can also create music. Jane could come up with a poem and say to a program, and create a song for me using these lyrics. It'll be original AI generated music, not infringing on anybody else's copyright. AI can, of course, take voices. You're well aware that AI has been used for illegal purposes, trying to extort money from people by creating phone calls to individuals. I heard this summer when I was in Arizona at the National Speakers Association about a Canadian broadcaster. Now think about somebody who appears on a television show, how easy it is to capture their voice. Her daughter got a phone call. Hi, this is mom. I'm in the hospital. I'm in the burn unit, but don't worry, I'm not too badly burned. But I was in the car crash and my wallet burned, and they're not giving me any food in the hospital. But if I can get $200 that you can send to Nurse Betty, then Nurse Betty can get me extra food, and then I won't be hungry. All right. Now I know that I lost you about halfway through that story because you're thinking, what? They're not giving her any food? It was a AI generated voice. And aside from the fact that it was a stupid story, this particular broadcaster had in her family something that I recommend that you do, particularly if you have young children or grandchildren, which is to have a safe word or phrase. Your family agrees that in order for somebody to truly represent themselves, they have to use the safe phrase. When my kids were little, our phrase was Grand Bahama Islands. If any of you use that against me, you're done. But if I would say to my son, I'm going to send the neighbor and he doesn't know the neighbor to school to pick you up, the neighbor's going to have to say Grand Bahama Islands in order for you to be picked up. We never had to use that phrase, and the occasion never came up. But in the Canadian broadcaster situation, they didn't know the phrase. And so she immediately recognized that this was not her daughter who was calling her to ask for money. Scammers are very active, yes. And while we are on the program, there is somebody scheming, thinking about how they can figure out how to get into your wallet.
I know that using video to tell stories makes the video memorable and certainly gets attention. What do I need to consider about the legal and the ethical obligations?
Well, clearly, you can't talk about active cases, as we've discussed, and confidential information. You can do a video, as I mentioned earlier as well, on a case that you were not involved with. One of my coaching clients, Tracy Cappers, used a program called HeyGen, HeyGen, and created a video about an incident that she read about, including some instruments at Albany Medical Center. She wasn't involved in that, but she was able to give her take on what happened. That's publicly available information that you get from your cases that are active. You can't share information about those specific cases. You can talk in general terms, however. You might have worked on a case, as I did, involving the cervical fracture that was missed because they didn't do the CT scan of the neck, and the patient woke up after surgery on his legs, paralyzed because of his cervical injury. You can talk about the importance of diagnosing cervical spine injuries and fractures without saying that it was Marin Tursunovich who was hit in New Jersey outside the Lucky Strike bar, and give details of that nature. Now, that case has been resolved, and I worked on it with the attorney, and I could have used that case in broad terms as the foundation for a video. So keep in mind that you've got to maintain privacy and confidentiality when you're discussing medical issues. The medical issues themselves you can discuss without patient identifying information.
Well, that's very helpful because you and I have seen over the years and heard people sharing specific details of active cases in group situations. And you and I have intervened and suggested that they keep those facts private. Can you explain how I can create a model for my core video content?
Sure. This is going to be one of the keys of organizing your information is to think in terms of what is the broad area that you would like to focus on. And I'll take nursing home cases as an example. That broad trunk would be nursing home cases. And then there are branches. This is a model built on the tree model. The branches could be broad topics like categories of people, medical records, sources of liability. When you have those broad branches, then you've got little leaves, and they break down into the small subtopics for the videos. For types of personnel who work in a nursing home, as an example, one of the leaves could be the responsibilities of CNAs, the training that they have, the types of documentation that they are responsible for, some of the sources of liability that CNAs can get involved in. Another branch in there could be registered nurses' liability and LPNs who are frequently found in nursing homes providing care, or the liabilities associated with being a nurse practitioner or physician's assistant in providing care to nursing home residents. When you break down your big trunk into branches and then into little leaves, you'll end up with lots of topics, which are those small leaves in your model that help you focus on what can I cover in a couple of minutes. Our attention spans are shot. We're not going to sit in many cases and watch a video on a YouTube channel that lasts an hour and a half or 2 hours. I know you sit there and you look at that number at the end and you say, all right, how long is that video? Do I really have time to sit and watch it? But shorter ones, yes, I can take a couple of minutes. I can watch it on my phone, which is where a lot of YouTube videos are being watched these days. When you have this type of a structure of your main topic, your branches, and your leaves, then as you get ideas, you can fill out a table that you keep in Word or Excel. And as ideas come to you, you say, oh, yeah, all right, that would be a good topic for a video. Capture those ideas so that when you do sit down and you are getting ready to record, you can do some batch recording. Record a number of videos to be able to get them together and then be able to start releasing them.
I love this model. It reminds me of the orthopedic model as well, because we use the trunk and the branches and the leaves. And I just think this is really a great visual for all of us that are attending today.
Oh, thank you. And Barbara, in the last remaining minutes of this session, could you tell our viewers a little bit about what's coming up at our conference in November 13th, 14th, and 15th?
Yes, absolutely. We have some amazing speakers. One of our topics is actually going to be on nurse practitioner liability. You will gain expert insights into nurse practitioner liability, including misdiagnosis, medication errors, and deviations from the standard of care. There will be a session on report writing strategies, and you'll be able to improve your legal case report writing with strategies to create clear, well-structured, and persuasive reports that the attorneys can rely on. There will be a session on audit trail analysis. You will identify how electronic health records audit trail analysis can extract critical case insights and strengthen the medical evidence attorneys need. There will be a great session on the use of LinkedIn strategies. And this can help you, the legal nurse consultant, attract attorneys and build valuable professional connections. There will be a session on deposition workshop where you will have hands-on deposition analysis skills you'll be learning about by drafting key questions and summarizing testimony. There will be networking opportunities, and other sessions include, as you know, Pat will present on the use of AI tools, and she will have, I believe, a surprise guest for you to meet. There will also be a session on medical malpractice cases where you will gain information on the essentials of medical malpractice case selection, pre-litigation review, and what the attorneys expect from the legal nurse consultants. So this conference will be November 13, 14, and 15, and this will be from your comforts of your own home. It's a virtual conference where you will gain knowledge, network with others, and have a front seat to this incredible conference where you will have the opportunity to ask your burning questions of the speakers, other attendees, and you will learn lots. We'd love to have you there.
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that overview. The conference will be recorded for later viewing. We will be recording all of the sessions, and those recordings will capture what has occurred in this conference and all of the learnings. There's also an extensive workbook that will include the slides from the speakers who use them, as well as some supplemental materials. And the continuing education units will be available to people for one fee of $15, which is paid directly to the provider. I believe it's close to 16 continuing education units or contact hours, which is required, at least in many states, for relicensure. And I saw, Debbie, that you had a scammer who got hold of some information, unfortunately, apparently had a great time with your identity. And I am sorry that you have gone through that. I know, Barbara, you had an identity theft experience a few years back, and it was quite involved to try to figure out how to undo all of that.
It was a nightmare, a true nightmare. Yes. Well, I love Michelle's comment. Thank you. I'm ready to grow in my new career. That's wonderful. We look forward to having you join us in November.
And we've got probably a couple of minutes if you have any questions on video creation that I haven't covered, or any aspect of what we've been talking about in this session. I see Debbie referred to nursing home cases involving rehab issues, specific rehab issues, what to report. There could be a whole series of small videos on changes in condition, what's expected of the nursing home staff, what paperwork needs to be done, what clinical things need to be accomplished, what paperwork has to be redone when they come back to the nursing home, and how the MDS has to be recompleted. Who is responsible for contacting the physician, and who can take telephone orders to transfer the resident to the emergency department, in filling out incident reports and documentation. I have seen several cases of staff in a nursing home who were documenting in the medical record of a nursing home resident who was actually not in the building at the time, but was in the hospital. But the staff were dutifully filling out the checklists about diet and elimination and activity. Oh, the plaintiff attorneys love that when they find that. And you can find that as a legal nurse consultant because you pay attention to details. Looks like Melanie will be joining us. Glad to have you, Melanie. Lots of thank yous. Training the CNAs to grab the LPN and RN when changes occur. Absolutely, Debbie. They are not medical people. They're not professionals, the CNAs. They need to know, hey, this is a change. Somebody needs to pay attention to this and have that confidence that the staff will be able to address their concerns. All right. I'm not seeing anything new, Barbara. There is a note to you from
Debbie, I saw a yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We're delighted that you could spend this time with us. Our next Power series will be October 14th, which is a Tuesday. It will be back at 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to be covering mastering your money mindset. When the attorney says, oh, I don't think I want to pay that much per hour. How about we reduce that? How do you respond? And we'll be talking about some of the thought process, some of the negotiations, and some of the things that you need to consider when you are working with attorneys and money issues come up. That'll be October 14th at 12 noon. We have not sent out any emails on that. They will be going out starting on Sunday. So watch for your email. That, again, is another one of our free sessions. And then on October 7th at 8 p.m., Barbara and I are doing a LinkedIn workshop, 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a packed session with implementation time for you to open up your LinkedIn account and make some refinements that will make a big difference in terms of your ability to present yourself and attract attorney clients to you. You have been receiving emails on that, and we have several people who are registered for that already. That's October 7th. And the link for that, I will put in the chat. Linked in Tune Up. That's October 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, and that is a paid workshop.
Thank you, Jessica. Ladies, you are the goats of the LNC world. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
wow.
Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that's a compliment, Barbara, if we're our goats, not Billy Goats, but some other kind of goat.
Greatest of all time, just like Tom Brady.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate your attention, and we'll see you again soon.
See you soon. Have a great day.
Coming up next on Legal Nurse Podcast, we're going to focus on a question I have for you, which is, are you undervaluing your expertise as an LNC? This is an episode that comes from an LNC Power series that I did with Barbara Levin on the topic of developing confidence when it comes to mastering your money mindset. How to stay firm when quoting your fees and collecting money that is owed to you. Sometimes childhood conditioning and messages influence the way that you feel about money. We'll talk about why lowering your rates undermines your credibility and how to handle attorneys who are pushing for discounts. Through the program, we share some stories and some strategies that help you learn how to set boundaries, request retainers without hesitation, and communicate your value to attorneys. If you've ever hesitated about quoting your rates, struggled to collect payments, or felt pressured to bend your policies, this is a conversation that will give you the mindset shift and tools that you need to protect your worth and build a thriving business. Don't miss this podcast coming up next on Mastering Your Money Mindset. I'm Pat Iyer, and I'd love to see you there. Thank you for being part of the Legal Nurse Podcast audience. I'm delighted that you've joined us for this episode. Be sure to go to legalnursebusiness.com and get your free reports. Look around the website, pick up some tools that will be useful for you in your legal nurse consulting practice, and be sure to join us for the next episode.